Well, hey there, everybody. Today I want to do a special holiday podcast episode. And this is going to be about what I've been able to do since starting this company, what this company has allowed me to be able to do from a charity standpoint, a giving back standpoint. So we're coming up on Thanksgiving here. So there's a lot that we all here in America have to be thankful for. And I'm thankful for all of my clients that have been able to allow me to do this, for my team that continues to keep the place going when I'm off doing some of these things as well. So, I mean, there have been plenty of charity opportunities that we've been able to give to, and some of the specific ones. I always tell people, you know what, there are three real entities that end up getting my money. It's and you can use a word that starts with C or K sound to basically talk about all of them. And my money will go to Christ, Country, and Kids. And that's why I said it's not always this a C, it's a K sound as well. So Christ, Country, and Kids are where my money ends up going. And that can be a number of different ways. We give a lot to our church. We give to different, seems like a lot of the conferences that we go to have some form of charity that involves the armed forces. And so having a dad that was in Vietnam, a brother that's retired Air Force, another one that was in the reserves, and a lot of family members as well. Father-in-law also in the Navy. So yeah, I've got military surrounding me as well. So anything involving military is something that gets my money as well. And then kids. And that can come in a number of different forms. We give to the Rock Chalk Round Ball Classic every single year. We have since 2019, when my niece was one of the beneficiaries of that. She got leukemia when she was 2. And so a lot of different things that we've had the opportunity to be able to do as a result of building this business. And so one, I want to use this episode to thank all of you, my team, my clients, everybody that was involved in helping me make the transition from working to being a business owner, and then give a story, kind of the culmination up to this point of what this has been able. So hopefully there will be plenty more stories like this in the future, but I've got a really cool story. And if there's those of you that are listening that maybe you don't believe in God, and you just want to tune out, obviously you have the freedom to do that, but you could stick around and actually hear a pretty cool story, regardless of whether you believe in God or Jesus as our savior, or any of that stuff. I think it's a cool story, no matter where you lie on that spectrum. So to give it some context here, our church has, and the name of our church is Lawrence Heights Christian Church here in Lawrence. It's a non-denominational Christian church. We've had a specific mission that we have I want to say every 2 years, every 3 years. I can't remember exactly when we started contributing or donating to this specific mission, World Gospel Outreach. There's been a mission trip that has happened several times in the past to Honduras. And WGO, World Gospel Outreach, is the entity that has been responsible for coordinating all of that with us. And we've even had a past associate pastor who decided to go into full-time ministry and move down to Honduras at the WGO Mission House. And that's where he and his wife live now and have for several years. Every time it had come up to where we would be going on this Honduras trip, I had already had everything planned out for the next year. All of the marketing events, the speaking events, vacations, you name it, already done. And there was always something that conflicted with the times that this Honduras trip would come up. And he podido hablar español desde la universidad. I've been able to speak Spanish since college. And every time we go down to either Cancun or Cozumel or Playa del Carmen or wherever we go down in Mexico for vacations, I always make it a point to speak Spanish while I'm down there. And I've got an app on my phone that I use that has like 30-minute lessons. And I've gone through several of those, not only to strengthen my Spanish skills, but also to learn enough Italian and Portuguese when I went to Lisbon, Portugal, and Italy here within the last several years to get around and actually have people being impressed with the amount of Portuguese or Italian I was able to speak after only about 5 or 6 months of study. So the app works. I'll just put it that way. It's this really good app. Pimsleur is the name of it. Simon and Schuster is, I think, who it's through. But Pimsleur, it's an app you can download. Each lesson, like I said, is 30 minutes long, and it's done by people that speak that native language. And it's a lot of things that you will actually say. So you're learning phrases. You're learning how to respond. So I really like it. It works out well. At least for my learning style, it works out really well. And finally, I told the guy at our church that heads up this and does all the coordination for when the Honduras trip is going to be. I told him that, hey, if you let me know by like October of the year before when the dates are, I can schedule all my stuff around it for that year. And so we were able to do that, and I was able to go on this Honduras trip for the first time. And my son, who was 12 at the time, was able to come with me. So that was another added benefit, I guess, of waiting so long. The first time I went on a mission trip is also the first time my son went on a mission trip, but much younger. So I want to talk. The mission trip was set in July of this year, and I started back in January learning Spanish again. Not learning it, but I mean relearning it. Going through that app, learning new words that I didn't know. I didn't know before, learning different phrases, different ways of saying things. So it actually helped out a lot. So I started that journey in January. And then in February, I ended up having two dreams within the same week, not back to back, but within the same week. I had two dreams that were entirely in Spanish. One of the dreams, I understood everything in the dream. Everything, every conversation that was had in that dream, I understood it all, which means that the words that were being used were still bouncing around somewhere in my subconscious, and I knew those words. It wasn't like I was learning new words in there that I had never studied. I literally knew all the words that were there. I was at a Mexican wedding, where of all places. Wedding reception. It wasn't the actual wedding; it was the reception. And man, they were doing it up right. They had that spread was phenomenal. We're talking like lobster. I mean, shrimp, different stations of different types of food. My wife and I were there. I had a couple brothers and their family that were there. My parents were there. Of course, none of them speak Spanish, so I was the only one doing that. But yeah, I understood it all. And then the second dream that I had, apparently I didn't understand everything in there. I didn't know all the words in there. In that story, I was already in Honduras, and I was telling a story to the people around me in Spanish. And every time I would get to a point in the story where I didn't actually know how to say what I needed to say to tell the story, I would look over at my translator and I would ask them how to say that specific word that I needed. Their mouth would move, but no sound came out. And then I would continue the story right after, as if I had just used the word. I would just continue on with the story. And that happened several times while telling that story in my dream. I would come to a word that I didn't know, ask my translator, mouth would move, no sound came out. And so then I woke up realizing, well, there's some words that I probably need to know if I'm going to be down in Honduras. And one of the things that we are going to do down there is evangelize. And I wanted to be able to evangelize in Spanish. And I realized that there were some pretty basic words in Spanish that I did not know how to say that would be useful during the evangelism portion. Like the simplest one, the one that I was like the most surprised about that I didn't know. I didn't know the word for to save. To save. I mean, that seems like a pretty big one to know if you're going to talk about how God saves your soul, right? So it's salvar, by the way, is to save. So that was an easy one to learn. I didn't know how to say heaven in Spanish. It's cielo, which is ironically it's the same word for ceiling as well. So cielo, soul. I didn't know how to say soul, which it's alma, ALMA, like alma mater. So soul was another one. So there were several different words that I didn't know how to say. And when I looked those up to learn how to say those, it reminded me that there's probably some other ones that I didn't know as well. So I learned those like prayer and several others. So then we go along. So that was in February. I didn't have any more Spanish dreams from February all the way through July. And then July comes, we go down there and we've got several different things that we were doing for that specific journey, that specific mission trip. It was There was a lot of medical stuff involving dental specifically. There were medicine that we were able to take down there, normal hygiene stuff that we were able to help out with, doctor prescriptions. And we installed water filters in people's homes so that they could have clean water. Apparently, it's less expensive down in Tegucigalpa, Honduras, to drink soda than it is to drink water. And hence why dental is such a big thing. So if you drink nothing but soda, it's going to rot your teeth. If there's any kids listening to that, yeah, don't drink too much soda, right? So there's that, and then of course there was the evangelism station, and we had translators. So anybody on our team, we had 14 of us that went down there. I was the only one that spoke Spanish, so we had translators for everybody. And what I learned while I was down there is I can speak Spanish a lot better than I can understand it. Because one, they speak so fast. There's the accent that they have, and so sometimes I just don't understand what they're saying, but I can speak it back. If I know what they're saying, I can respond in Spanish. And so I was frustrated the first couple days there when, I'd spent all this time to learn Spanish and I can speak it to them, but when they say it back, I'm having such a hard time understanding. And so I told the translators, like, listen, I'm going to speak as much Spanish as I can, but I still want you to literally translate everything they say because I'm having such a hard time understanding the words. And so they agreed. And yeah, the very first woman that sat down when I was at the evangelism station, and my son was with me, he was there the entire time as well. I led to Christ. And that was crazy. I mean, first off, I haven't led anybody to Christ in English that I know of, so that was crazy. And this is where the story starts to take a wild turn because I mean, one, it was just a phenomenal experience being able to do that for someone, and the emotions were pretty high at when that happened. But afterwards, so let's fast forward now. The trip's over. We're flying back home. We have a layover in Houston, and all of us are just tired. So we're at the Houston airport. We got a couple hour layover. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to try to take a little quick nap here, see if I can get some sleep. And instead, my brain is just replaying that situation when I led the gal to Christ, and all of a sudden, I realized that almost all of those words that I didn't know in that second dream, I used in almost rapid fire succession right before she committed. And I've heard of the Holy Spirit giving you the words that you need to say, but I always thought it would be in the moment, which I still believe that happened while we were down there. But in this case, God gave me the words that I was going to need months before I even knew I was going to need them. And so that's one of the God things there. The I guess the next crazy thing that happened, like if that was it, if that was the end of the story, God would still be good. But he he made it even more personal. I did not realize when we set the dates for this trip that it would literally be the 10th anniversary of the mountain incident back in 2015. And for those of you that may not have listened to all of these podcast episodes, I had a podcast episode where I did actually talk about that mountain episode. And I'll try to, for time's sake here, give you the quickest explanation of that story real quick to tell you why this ties back in. Um, we climbed me and two friends climbed a 14er in Buena Vista. Yeah, they even it's spelled Buena like good view is what Buena Vista really means. But they had a town hall meeting to say we're going to pronounce it wrong. So literally, you're supposed to pronounce it Buny. Buena Vista is how you say the town. But anyway, there's several 14ers around that town. We're climbing Mount Yale, and on the way down, we got hit by a storm, and then lightning struck the mountain as well as four hikers. Now we were probably about 100 yards away when that lightning bolt hit, but we were the first hiking group on the scene. Excuse me. Now, of the three of us, One is ex-military, and he's, I think, half mountain goat because he's climbed several 14ers already, and the dude is he can just go up and down. Altitude never bothers him, so he's easily the fastest of us. And the other one was a friend of mine who is a firefighter, and there was me. So, and I've got some CPR history in my background because I was an athletic trainer for a little while. I was also a lifeguard through college, so I've been trained on CPR before. So we sent the ex-military guy down I mean, we were literally only about 20 minutes from the summit. So we had not been coming out down for very long before we got hit by that storm. So we're basically at the top of the mountain. And so we send him down to go get help because there was no cell reception anywhere on the mountain. And then me and my firefighter friend stayed and did CPR on there was 2 hiking parties, actually. It was 2 brothers and then a husband and wife, and it was the wife that took the direct hit. The husband was basically right next to her, and so he received a lot of residual damage from that strike, and he actually assisted in the CPR that we were performing as well. But we did CPR on the wife that took the direct hit for 45 minutes. So needless to say, she did not make it, and after about 10 minutes, you know that they're not going to make it. And so there's a term which I cannot remember what it is now when you're no longer doing CPR for the person that you're trying to save, you're doing it for the family so that they know that they don't have that as they're going to have guilt either way, but they don't have as much guilt. They know that they did everything they could have. So that was what we were doing for quite a while. But then after we called called it basically, he tried killing himself, and he slammed his head on a rock that like a boulder that was right there by that we had been basically leaning on and using for support for quite a while during that CPR time. And the sound of that is gonna forever be in my brain. I basically had to put him in a full Nelson and wrestle him to the ground to subdue him so that he would no longer harm himself. And then as soon as I got him subdued, and almost no one knows how to get out of a full Nelson. So as soon as I had him subdued, then he calmed down. But then we basically had to wait for 4 hours for search and rescue to come find us. And by that time, he had gone completely unconscious, and we had to literally carry him about a half a mile down the mountain to a clearing that was big enough for a helicopter to land so they could life flight him to Denver. The 10th anniversary of that was when we were down in Honduras. And the reason that is significant is because you remember me telling you that I had 2 dreams. And the second one, I was telling a story in Spanish when I was already in Honduras. And I was telling the story of the mountain trip. And I was trying to tell it in Spanish. And that's when God showed me the words that I needed in order to help that gal come to Christ. Now, of the 2, the husband and wife, the wife was the one that took the direct hit. She also was a believer, and she had gone on several mission trips already at that point in her life. But what the crazy realization that I came to was that God used a situation where I could not save someone's physical life to then be able to help me save someone's spiritual life. And I tell people that I've got emotions that I haven't even been able to process since all of that because to my knowledge, I cannot remember any time in my life where I have been that blatantly obviously used for God's purpose. And honestly, I don't really know what to do with all the emotions yet. It's like it's still so fresh. But anyway, extremely grateful to be able to have had that experience, to have my son there to witness that experience as well. He now wants to learn Spanish as well as dad. And I'm like, well, hopefully you can learn it better than me so you can actually understand it too. Um, but that there will be more of that that will be happening as well. So again, thank you to my team for keeping things running when I'm off doing stuff like that. Thank you to my clients for trusting our firm enough to put your money with us so that we can design the type of retirement that you envisioned. And we want to continue to work our hardest so that you can have the retirement that you deserve. So again, happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas to everyone, happy holidays, and we'll see you again. I guess probably after the holidays. I might have maybe one or two more episodes, I think, before the end of the year, and that'll be it for the year, and then we'll start again come 2026. So this has been a great year. Matter of fact, I mean the market has actually been it's better than what I thought it would do at the beginning of the year. So yes, I think we've had a great year, and I'm looking forward to a phenomenal 2026 as well. Again, take care.